Okay, everyone, we are live, simulcasting on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram with the 39th edition of Englishing with Jings. And we're discussing a very wise man today, KONGZI, or Confucius. In the West, I think we are fairly common with him being called Confucius. So that's what I'm going to say for this episode. So, having said that, yes, this man was incredible. Let's just say one of the first real philosophers in this world that we live in. Okay, everybody, as I said, welcome. Good afternoon, all of Asia. Good morning, Europe. Good night, United States. All right, give me 1 second because we're going to go right into our coronavirus update. Always have to start with the worst because then it only gets better from there, right? Okay, total cases in this world, 66 million, almost 67 million. Almost 47 million recovered too. So that's good. We'll start off with my home country, almost 15 million total cases, 287, almost 288,000 deaths. This is completely preposterous. Okay. Moving right along to 1,900 deaths. It's always so hard to find Hong Kong because they're so far on the bottom of the list. Okay. 6,803, relatively small. And last but not least, 716 total. Gloomy. But before we do that, I want to Okay, moving right along. Existed for many years. That is accepted, considered to look up because our gesture of respect. Okay, gratitude these days. These are great. Really, really, really good. Our next vocabulary is wisdom. Scientific learning, knowledge, not least on our beautiful educational list of vocabulary is, oh, by the way, that's a British spelling, or behaves. This is behavior. Oh, I'm impressed with our team's choices here today. Is that too bright? Huge plus. This is a bonus. We'll have a few back in school, but it's been years since I've studied Confucius, so this is going to be a refresher course. Share. What's up with that? I am not able to share. This is not. May I share? suppose I can start off with some reading. Okay, we'll just do some general. Or KONGZI was born in 551 BC and passed away in 479. So he was 49, 59. Yes, yeah, okay, I'm right. Okay, he was a Chinese philosopher and politician of the spring and autumn period who is traditionally considered the paragon of Chinese sages. The philosophy of Confucius, also known as Confucianism, emphasized personal and governmental morality, correctness of social relationships, justice, kindness, and sincerity. This stuff is deep. Confucianism was part of the Chinese social fabric and way of life. To Confucians, everyday life was the arena of religion. His followers competed successfully with many other schools during the 100 Schools of Thought era, only to be suppressed in favor of the legalists during the Qin dynasty. Following the victory of Han over Chu after the collapse of Qin, Confucius's thoughts received official sanction in the new government. During the Tang and Song dynasties, Confucianism developed into a system known in the West as Neo-Confucianism, and later New Confucianism, modern Neo-Confucianism. Confucius is traditionally credited with having authored or edited many of the Chinese classic texts, including all of the 5 classics. But modern scholars are cautious of attributing specific assertions to Confucius himself. Aphorisms concerning his teachings were compiled in the Analects, but only many years after his death. Family loyalty, ancestor veneration, and respect of elders by their children and of husbands by their wives, recommending family as a basis for ideal government. He espoused the well-known principle, do not do unto others what you do not want done to yourself, the golden rule. He is also a traditional deity of Taoism. Confucius is widely considered as one of the most important and influential individuals in human history, not just Chinese history, human history. His teaching and philosophy greatly impacted people around the world and remain influential, being used today. So, okay. Technical difficulties. Give me 1 second here, people. Okay, I think that we can watch our video now. Can you believe it? We learned a little bit from Wikipedia. Now we're going to check out a video. Okay. Eastern philosophy, people. Grab some popcorn and sit back and watch.
He's said to have been born in 500 minister of crime under Duke Bosses. The Duke spent all his time right around between the 3rd and 5th century BC. You don't want done to yourself. But some of them also sound very strange or old-fashioned to modern ears, especially to Western ones. But we need his advice all the more for this. It serves as an antidote to the troubles we currently face. Here are a few examples of what Confucius helps us to remember. 1. Ceremony is important. The Analects are filled with strange conversations between Confucius and his disciples, like this one. Tse Kung wished to do away with the offering of a sheep. Confucius said, Tse, you love the sheep, I love the ceremony. At first, this is baffling, if not also humorous. Why not save the sheep? But Confucius is reminding Tse and us about the importance of ceremony. In the modern world, we tend to shun ceremony and see this as a good thing, a sign of intimacy or a lack of pretension. But Confucius believed in the value of ceremonies over sheep because he valued what he called ritual propriety. This might seem a very outdated and conservative idea, but in fact many of us long for particular rituals, that meal Mum cooked for us whenever we were sick, or the yearly birthday outing, or our wedding vows. We understand that certain premeditated, deliberate and precise gestures stir our emotions deeply. Rituals make our intentions clear, and they help us to understand how to behave. Two, we should treat our parents with reverence. In particular, Confucius had a very strict idea about how we should behave towards our parents. He believed that we should obey them when we're young, care for them when they're old, mourn at length when they die, and make huge sacrifices in their memory thereafter. He even said that we shouldn't travel far away while our parents are alive and should cover for them if they steal a sheep. This attitude is known as filial piety. It sounds strange now, when many of us leave our parents' homes teenagers and rarely return to visit. We may even see them as strangers, arbitrarily thrust upon us by fate. After all, our parents are so out of touch, so pitifully human in their shortcomings, so difficult, so judgmental, and have such bad taste in music. Confucius recognized that in many ways, moral life begins in the we should be obedient to honorable people. Modern society is very egalitarian. We believe that we're all born equal and should ultimately be able to say and do whatever we like. We reject many rigid hierarchical roles. Yet Confucius told his followers that there are people worthy of our deep friendship. We should also practice peacefully doing what these people need, ask, or command. Confucius explained, the relation between superiors and inferiors is like that between the wind and the grass. The grass must bend when the wind blows across it. Bending gracefully is in fact not a sign of weakness, but a gesture of humility and respect. 4. Cultivated knowledge can be more important than creativity. Modern culture places a lot of emphasis on creativity, unique insights that come to us suddenly. Confucius was adamant about the importance of the universal wisdom that comes from years of hard work and reflection. He listed benevolence, ritual propriety, righteousness, wisdom, integrity as the 5 constant virtues. While Confucius believed that people were inherently good, he also saw that virtues like these must be constantly cultivated, just like plants in a garden. He spoke about moral character and wisdom as the work of a lifetime. We can see now why he had such reverence for his elders. Of course, a burst of inspiration may well be what we need to start our business or redo our rough draft or reinvent our life. But if we're being very honest with ourselves, we'll have to admit that we also need to devote more energy to slowly changing our habits. This, more than anything else, is what prevents us from becoming truly intelligent, accomplished, and wise. Confucius died without reforming the decadent duke and his officials. But after his death, his followers created schools and temples in his honor across East Asia, passing his teachings along for over 2,000 years. Today, millions of people still follow Confucius's teachings as a spiritual or religious discipline, and his thought has been a huge influence on Eastern political ideas about morality, obedience, and good leadership. You might find Confucian virtues a bit strange or old-fashioned, but this is what ultimately makes them all the more important. We need them as a corrective to our own excesses. The modern world is almost surprisingly totally un-Confucian, informed, egalitarian, and full of innovation, so we're conversely at risk of becoming impulsive, irreverent, and thoughtless, without a little advice from Confucius, good behavior, and cheap.
Cool. Very cool. Okay. Interesting. What am I doing here? Hold on a second. Okay, so he was just a really good person with good morals. I think that's the easiest way to explain him, right? He just wanted to be proper and to do the right thing. Generally do the right thing. He had a good inner feeling about what was right and what was wrong, I think. Wow, see, that's amazing because his golden rule is basically the same way that it's written in the Bible. But they say, do unto others as you would want others to do to you. So it's basically the same thing. Wow. So cool. So interesting. Yeah, I think everybody needs to follow the golden rule, right? He was wise beyond his years, that's for sure. Okay. I want to learn more. I am not finished. That was definitely a good starter, though. I don't even know if we can actually call him a politician because he was too proper. Politicians might talk like this, but they don't act like this. Okay, here we go. We're going to learn about Confucianism. Okay. Share, Brandon, share. Don't keep it for yourself. Okay, this seems like a good one.
This video is sponsored by Blinkist.
Okay.
Blinkist transforms the key insights of best-selling non-fiction books into powerful packs that you can read or listen to in just 15 minutes. We're going to talk more about Blinkist later on in the video, but for now, let's get on with 10 life lessons that we can learn from Confucius. Confucius was one of the greatest Eastern philosophers of all time, whose teachings deeply influenced East Asian life and thought. His philosophical movement, Confucianism, emphasizes morality, honesty, and living. So here are 10 lessons we can all learn from one of China's most iconic historical figures.
Cool.
Number 1, learn to see beauty in everything.
See?
Confucius says, everything has its beauty, but not everyone sees it. In today's world, our life is mostly made up of routines and patterns. Many of us live according to the rules that are socially acceptable, within the realm of comfort, while living repetitively and dreaming that irritate you, like traffic, your kids throwing fits, stepping on Lego, your computer running slowly, your pet throwing up on the carpet, losing your keys, or your phone just randomly stops working. We always fail to see the silver linings or the bright side. In reality, the simple fact that you're in the world and able to experience anything at all is little short of a miracle. The sheer complexity of all the events that have had to happen in order for you to even exist and to have a computer in the first place to go slow is simply mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Consider just within your own body how much is going on right now that just happens without you even thinking about it. Imagine if you had to think about breathing or making your heart beat or even digesting your lunch. All of this and so much more is going on just so you can watch this video and understand it without dying.
Right.
Isn't that incredible? And this detail doesn't just exist in us, it's in everything around us. So this means boredom is a fiction that we tell ourselves instead of admitting laziness. To truly understand this is to see that there really is beauty, detail, and interest in everything around you, from the pile of manure to the flowers that grow from it. If we look for the beauty in every moment, we can gain new insights and understanding in our own lives and the world we're all living those lives in. Number 2, moral values start at home.
Mm-hmm.
In the words of Confucius, the strength of a nation derives from the integrity of the home.
That's so true.
Moral values are a set of principles guiding us to evaluate what's right or wrong. Moral values such as integrity, determination, loyalty, truthfulness, honesty, giving respect to each other, and so on, help shape the character and personality of individuals. According to Confucius, these moral values can be best adopted at an individual family level. Confucius saw the family as the sole origin and foundation of the nation. The family, being the smallest unit in the nation, plays a very important role in ensuring the stability and progress of that nation. The principle adopted by Confucius that people should not do to others what they don't want to be done to them is best applicable in the family level.
That's biblical.
It means people should treat others.
And he said that before the Bible was invented, was written.
One should treat others in that way. If everyone were to follow this rule, everyone would be treated well, and by ensuring order and harmony at an individual family level, it becomes automatic that the nation as a whole will follow suit.
Mm-hmm.
This is so because a nation is a combination of homes which are made up of different family members. It's only by cultivating love among those family members that the nation can in turn demonstrate love. Without love and mutual respect by all family members, whether parent or child, it's impossible to instill the high moral values we'd like to see everyone achieve. As such, the more...
And this is what I was saying, people. The man was totally moral. Totally moral. Everything that he ever thought or conveyed to anyone was moral. Wholesome. Okay, continue.
Families that do demonstrate mutual love and respect, the more harmonious the coexistence of the wider community, whether local, national, or global, will improve. Number 3, never do anything half-heartedly. To quote Confucius, wherever you go, go with all your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Some people succeed over others because they give 100% to whatever they commit to. Most of us commit to something, but usually give it a half-hearted effort. It means that you don't have that much energy for it. You're not that motivated for it, or interested in doing it, or inspired, but still participate in whatever you're doing. Most of us waste too much of our time, money, and energy by not committing wholeheartedly to something that's important to us. Putting a half-hearted effort into things that matter in life means we're constantly falling short of our potential. Our half-hearted effort is still exhausting. It consumes energy without producing results. It's stressful. It makes us feel like a failure when we're not. It's just that we haven't fully committed to something, which is why we need to do everything wholeheartedly. We need to give our 100%. Doing things wholeheartedly means you bring your whole self to work and you lead from your heart. This way, you'll be more likely to be the person who cares more, shares more, understands more, says more, feels more, hears more, and is liked more. You can accomplish anything if you do it with all your heart. Number 4, never give up. In the words of Confucius, it does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. Confucius teaches us that it doesn't matter if you're moving a step closer or an inch closer to your dreams. The most important thing is that you keep moving forward.
He's so inspirational.
We all love to fall in love with the idea of something grand. We love the thought of being a famous tech entrepreneur far more than we love sitting in a dark room for years on end learning how to code.
True.
And when we hit the first roadblock, we assume failure and give up entirely because knowledge and master over a skill wasn't the driving force. The shiny reward at the end was. We need to understand that success is a work in progress.
Yeah.
The truth is, you're going from point A to point B. So if you're consistent, while it might not happen in the time frame that you'd expected, you'll surely reach where you want to go in the end if you put in the daily required effort and keep on developing your skills. Just as there are common steps that people take to achieve success, there are common steps people take to fail. So even if you do get stuck, do not change your goals. No matter what the difficulty is, just change the approach you take to get it. Number 5, everyone has wisdom to share. Confucius says, if I am walking with 2 other men, each of them will serve as my teacher. I will pick out the good points of the one and imitate them, and the bad points of the other, and correct them in myself. This is one of the great lessons of life. According to Confucius, everyone around us is a lesson, and we should try to learn everything we can from them. There are some things that we learn from books by going to classes, watching presentations, or listening to lectures. Other things we learn from experience, and we can inherit their wisdom and knowledge. A good example is asking friends how they find time to read 1 book a week. The best way to learn from people around you is by having friends who are better than yourself. Your friends are a guiding light to your future as you are often headed where they already are. Therefore, surround yourself with friends who are going where you want to go, who share your values and convictions and drive each other to be the best self you can be. Learning from others is not a passive process, but one that requires work and commitment on our part.
So positive.
So pick out qualities in others which you admire and implement them. And use negative qualities as reminders of where you don't want to go, or get rid of bad traits you might have yourself. There is always something to be learned. Number 6.
So intelligent.
Ignore gossips. To quote Confucius, if they spit at you behind your back, it means you're ahead of them. There are 7 billion people on this planet, out of which we'll roughly encounter 25 to 30,000 of them in our brief lifetime. At any phase of your life, there are going to be people who are going to be more fortunate than you, and there are going to be people who are going to be less fortunate. Unfortunately, some of them will gossip about your fortunes behind your back. It feels pretty awful to have people talk about you behind your back, but people usually do this for 3 main reasons. 1, when they can't reach your level. 2, when they don't have what you have. And 3, when they try to copy your lifestyle, but can't. A jealous person won't come and tell you that he's jealous of you, nor will he say it directly to one of his friends, but instead his jealousy will appear in the form of hatred, resentment, and gossiping. The people who envy you the most are the ones who are most in need of what you possess. For example, your millionaire friend's never going to envy you if you bought a new average price car. But your friend who has no car is the one who's most likely going to be jealous of you. Good or bad, people are going to talk. Focus on the people who care about and support you, not the people who gossip. Number 7, think of the consequences. In the words of Confucius, when anger arises, think of the consequences. According to Confucius, if we're angry at someone, then we're defeated by them. We in the West believe that anger is not always bad. We believe that anger is justified if one is angry at the right time and in the right context. Confucius, just like Seneca, believes that there is no such thing as a good amount of anger, and it is extremely important to think of the consequences when an emotion like anger arises. Anger is a powerful emotion, and it may have destructive results for you and those closest to you. Anger can lead to arguments, physical fights, physical abuse, assault, and self-harm.
Yep, everything
Hence,
bad.
whenever you feel you're about to get angry, remove yourself from the situation that's provoking you, or withhold all actions until you feel yourself in a completely tranquil state of mind to think of the consequences. Try reading, deep breathing, meditating, or some other activity you find relaxing.
Ooh, it's so tough to do.
This can relieve the tension in your muscles and help you relax.
Sure, but
Even after taking the time off,
that's not easy.
if you feel that you're wronged, you should choose to forgive and move on, because at the end of the day, to be wronged is nothing unless you continue to remember it. Number 8, practice the art of silence. As we learn from Confucius, silence is a true friend who never betrays. Silence is a rare privilege in the modern world. When we're not talking with others, we fill our sonic space with different types of media, and with the advent of podcasts, we can always have something to listen to. For some of us, the absence of sound is almost startling, as we feel automatically compelled to turn on the TV or
silence is golden.
There are times throughout the day to integrate silence into it if you keep an eye out for them. If you are a stay-at-home parent, you can dedicate the first 15 minutes of nap time to a silent house. If you work, consider leaving your phone at your desk and going for a walk on your lunch break uninterrupted. Take 5 minutes during the day to stare out the window and be in the present moment. Silence is an inner state. In the absence of silence, you tend to get overtaken by the mind, body, and emotions. The clutter prevents you from listening to your psyche and soul. To listen to your soul, you need to establish a strong relationship with silence. Without it, we might remain unaware of many things about ourselves. Silence empowers you to think things through and come up with solutions, because it's only in silence that you can truly listen well, that you can listen to the deepest wisdom of your soul. Number 9, practice filial piety. In the words of Confucius, there are 3 degrees of filial piety. The highest is being a credit to our parents. The second is not disgracing them. The lowest is being able simply to support them. Filial piety is how children show their gratitude by repaying their parents for their kindness, love, and caring. People from Asia are often more communal and family-orientated. Therefore, children have more respect for their elders and will take care of aging parents in their own homes until they die. This is in contrast to the majority of us in the West, who are unusually focused on individualism and youth. As a result, it's all too common for us to show little respect for extended families and aging parents. We're so busy developing our own careers, raising kids, and being absorbed in our own lives that we tend to farm our aging parents out to institutions. According to Confucius, children should take care of their aging parents for several reasons. To begin with, they helped us to grow, and without them, we wouldn't even be in this world. They provided us love, shelter, clothes, and medicine, whatever we needed at that time.
Life. They provided life.
Education and taught us how we could survive in the world. Parents always try to prepare their children for the future, and they want to see them successful and happy. Therefore, one can argue that they have a right to expect something from their children in their old age. So even if you are far away, occupied with your busy life, you can practice filial piety by maintaining frequent contact, visiting them more often, stepping out with them, sending them money, and so on. Our parents made a lot of sacrifices for us in their lives, so we as children should show our love and gratitude for elderly parents by taking care of them. Number 10,
Embrace getting older. In our final piece of wisdom from Confucius, he tells us, old age, believe me, is a good and pleasant thing. It is true you are gently shouldered off the stage, but then you are given such a comfortable front stall as a spectator. When we turn 40, we suddenly find ourselves slowing down, gaining weight, and losing muscle tone.
That's 40?
We're less
That guy?
energized than a few short years ago.
No.
A new study has concluded that people with a positive attitude about getting older live longer and have better mental health. Those who look at aging as a bad thing are more likely to suffer a heart attack, a stroke, or die several years sooner. Hence, we need to change our perspective. Although there can be declines in health and income, the vast majority of older adults enjoy improvements in the emotional aspects of life because they're more focused on positive information. While you might not be able to do all the things you once did when you were younger, there are ways you can compensate by finding other activities that are just as rewarding, like finding something to commit to improving, whether it's tennis or chess. You can also focus on helping others, especially younger people. We really shouldn't forget the alternative to aging is dying young. We really hope you enjoyed this video, and as we said in the beginning, this video is made possible by Blinkist. Now, we all know the benefits of reading. Most of us have a book on...
Okay. Very, very cool. Okay, I think it's pretty safe to say that Confucius was just an all-around moral guy. Always do the right thing, help others, don't be mean. Pretty basic philosophies. I mean, if you think about just about any religion in the world, they all have these same basic ideas. So, wow. Confucius was, okay, we'll say a philosopher, but almost, I don't want to say prophet, but a messenger of some sort that wanted to pass on knowledge of morality. That's the easiest way to describe this man. Everything was about being a good person, doing the right thing. I think that's the easiest way to describe him. And I really respect that. In the times that we're living in these days, oh man, morality is at an all-time low, I think. If you ask me, like, this pandemic that we're facing and all of the bad things that are happening in this world should motivate us to be better, kinder, more gentle, to help others. But it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, unfortunately. I mean, it does, but in small quantities. Let's put it that way. Okay, people. This is our 39th edition already. Can you believe this? Next week is 40. Number 40. Wow. Unreal. Time has flown in the world of Jing's learning. I'm shocked that we've done this many shows, to be honest. Cheers to that. Oh, yeah. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Okay, so what is your favorite idea or teaching from Confucius? Which basic philosophy, I have to stop saying basic. What moral philosophy of Confucius do you think is the most important? He had so many. This is a very difficult question. I don't think I can pick one that's better than the other. I think everything this man ever thought of was equally moral. It's all about being a good, wholesome person. And he definitely did that. Amazing. Simply amazing. Okay, I think we're going to do one more video. And then we're going to take a break. Okay. Let's see what we have here. I'm wondering if these These videos aren't really all going to be saying things that are close, but okay. Let's see what this one says. Okay. Let's share. I like to share. Okay.
Now I'm going to talk about one of the greatest philosophers and teachers in human history, and that is Confucius, known to the Chinese as KONGZI, which means Master Kong.
He said it wrong.
Or KONFUCIUS, which means Grandmaster Kong. Once again, my apologies for my pronunciation.
Yeah, exactly.
The word Confucius
KONGZI
is a Latinization of Confucius. So you can imagine Confucius. Now, what's interesting about Confucius is he grew up in a time when China was getting more and more divided. In other videos, we talked about the Zhou dynasty, which begins at the very autumn period. Confucius lived from 551 to 479 BCE. And we're ending the spring and autumn period, and we're getting into the period of the warring states. So even in the time of Confucius, there was more and more tension between states. People felt less confident in the central states period. A lot of philosophers started to arise and philosophies began to arise because people were struggling with these questions of what is the role of the state? What does it mean to be a good person? How does humanity fit in with the cosmic order? Now, what's interesting about Confucius is by his own account, he says that he didn't come up with anything new. It's more of him trying to resuscitate or rejuvenate some of the traditions of the past. Most historians would give him more credit, even though Confucius does look to the early Zhou dynasty for a lot of his inspiration, and he looks to a lot of the traditions of the ancestors. He definitely puts a spin on it, which makes it a very powerful philosophy and arguably religion as we get into this warring states period, and especially as we get into a more unified China under the Qin and Han dynasties. And as we'll see, under the Han dynasty in particular, Confucianism becomes essentially the state religion. Now, to get a sense of what Confucius preached,
definitely a religion.
Life, he spent most of his life both teaching and preaching. A lot of people compare him to Socrates, even though he predates Socrates. And simultaneously, he was also building a career as a civil servant. But his legacy is definitely around his preachings. And most of his life was here in the state of Lu in eastern China. So there's three general themes that you could talk about Confucius' teachings. I encourage you to go look at his Analects. They're quite interesting to get many, many more of them. But a lot of it is around respecting traditions and respecting elders. Here's a quote from the Analects. A young man should serve his parents at home and be respectful to elders outside his home. He should be earnest and truthful, loving all, but becoming intimate with his innate good-heartedness. After doing this, if he has energy to spare, he can study literature and the arts. And there's a lot of talk of if someone is to be a good citizen, they need to be a good child first. They need to be a good son. Now, he also talks about what does it mean to be a just ruler. If you control people by punishment, they will avoid crime, but have no personal sense of shame. If you govern them by means of virtue and control them with propriety, they will gain their own sense of shame and thus correct themselves.
So true.
Morality and ethics plays a huge role at a personal level and also as a state level to Confucius. And we'll talk about other philosophies where that might not be as strong of a sense. Now, another very big theme to Confucius was looking to yourself. Through self-improvement, you can be a better citizen, a better child, a better ruler. Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. Learning without thought is labor lost. Thought without learning is perilous. When you see someone of worth, think of how you may emulate. When you see someone unworthy, examine your own character. I like that one in particular. Do not impose on others what you yourself do not desire. So a very close statement to the golden rule. Now, as I mentioned, Confucius and Confucianism was not alone in this in this period of the spring and autumn period, and especially as you get into the Warring States period. During that time, we have what's known as the 100 schools of thought, this time period starts around the time of Confucius and goes until Qin dynasty ends the Warring States period, and in a very strong way unifies China. Now, we already talked about Confucianism, which talks a lot about ethics, but its goal, remember, Confucius himself was a civil servant. He was an administrator. He thought a lot about what does it mean to be a just ruler. So it definitely touches on the practical to a good bit. Now, many people say it's an ethical system, but many would also consider it a religion.
Spiritual, ethical, and practical. Okay, that's enough of that one. Yeah, I think those are the three ways of his teachings: practical, ethical, and spiritual. God, it's so hard to call him a politician. I can't believe that he was an administrator with such morals and such, I don't know, solid ethics. It would make sense for him to be a lawmaker, I suppose. But okay, I mean, I think that he was more religious. I think. I mean, people really need to listen to his teachings and obey, and not obey, and to practice these teachings. I think these are so moral, so fantastic. I really do. Okay, people. I think we're going to go ahead and take a breaky break. So don't leave. We will be back soon, I promise. Okay, we are back, people. Instagram, as always. And our subject is Confucius. We've watched a couple of videos. We've talked about his basic thoughts and philosophies on life. Basically created a worldwide religion of being a good person, good morals, good ethics. He even really integrates right into Chinese etiquette. Everything the Chinese do when it comes to etiquette, I believe, comes from Confucius. That's amazing that his influence has lasted this long. This man was born BC times, which is a long time ago. Okay. I have to once again reiterate that Jing's Learning has officially launched their website, and we're accepting students right now. So if you want to improve that English, don't hesitate, people. This is the way. Okay, we're going to go right into what I was talking about, Chinese etiquette. We're going to comes from the basic philosophies of Confucius. Okay, let's share. I feel like sharing a lot today. Sharing is caring, people. Okay, the first is about dining etiquette.
You're about to sit down to a nice Chinese meal. A gesture here, a bite there, and all of a sudden, you and your family are shamed, and bad luck is upon all of you. How did that happen? Well, let me start by saying that eating is a huge part of Chinese culture. We need to celebrate, to honor guests, to socialize, and to strengthen bonds. So doing it the right way is very important. Good manners indicate proper upbringing and invites good luck. Poor etiquette is bad luck and embarrassing for you better, i.e. your parents. And we all know how well that would sit with the tiger mother. Fear not, friends, today I'm going to go through a list of 8 proper ways to eat a delicious Chinese meal without bringing shame to your family. Number 1, where to sit. See, before you even sit down for your meal, it's important to show the proper respect to the host as well as the guest of honor. You do this by not occupying the seat of honor, which is the center seat facing the entrance. Then the second most important person sits to his or her right side, the third most on his or her left side, and so on. The person footing the bill usually sits in the least prominent position, opposite the guest of honor. Sometimes the host will order a few dishes and ask the guest to each order an additional dish. If you're the one ordering, make sure to get a variety and make sure it's an even number. An odd number of dishes is traditionally reserved for funeral meals, and that is bad luck. Number 3 and 4, how to pour tea and how to show gratitude. Even with tea, there's a proper way to pour and drink it. It's polite to pour for those around you by taking the teapot handle in your right hand and then placing your left hand on the lid. This shows that you are honoring the person you're pouring for and keeps the lid from falling off. When the tea is out, leave the lid partially off and at the side of the table to indicate to the waitstaff that a refill is needed. Taking the lid entirely off is, you guessed it, bad luck. And if someone is pouring tea for you, a verbal thank you is necessary. Or if conversation is flowing, a verbal thank you may be disruptive. So you can take your index and middle finger, bend them, and tap them on the table. This is an acceptable show of gratitude that started in ancient times. An emperor was said to have gone undercover with 2 Secret Service-like servants in tow to observe his kingdom and how it was doing. At a restaurant, the emperor pours tea to his aides. Normally, they would kneel down on the ground and bow in gratitude. However, this would blow his covers. So instead, they bow with their fingers on the table, like this. Number 5, chopsticks handling. As difficult as they are to hold, proper chopsticks handling is a must. So take the time to learn how to use them correctly and avoid unintentional bad behavior. Chopsticks are seen as an extension to your fingers, so never point them directly at anyone. It's considered rude. Also, never leave the chopsticks sticking upright off the dishes, as it looks like incense in food dishes left in honor of the dead. Bad luck. Along those lines is number 6, how to eat your food. Chinese meals are usually served on a lazy Susan to make family-style eating all the more easy. When a dish is served, the senior-most person gets first stab at it, and then it's rotated around the table. It's polite to only take a small portion to make sure everyone gets some. And number 7, how to eat fish. Fish is usually served at Chinese meals, as the term have fish, or 有余 sounds the same as 有余, which means surplus. Having a surplus is lucky. 年年有余 is a common phrase used during Chinese New Year to wish someone good fortune and surplus year after year. When a fish is served whole, once one side is eaten, never flip the fish over. This custom started in Chinese fishing communities when the fish symbolizes a boat. So flipping it over indicates flipping the livelihood over. So how do you get to the other side? Simply use your chopsticks and grab the backbone and lift up. Set it on the side of the dish and voila, more deliciousness to consume. Last but not least, lucky number 8. Can you pay my bills? How to pay the bill is a very intricate process and the most important custom to note. Guests should never, ever split the bill with the host. It's very ungracious because it's as if you're saying that the host cannot afford the bill or that you do not accept his or her hospitality. Super rude. Now, the host is supposed to pay for the meal, but you have to offer to pay for the meal at least a few times. The more sincere looking the mock effort, the better. Now, don't get all into it and really pay the bill because that would be rude too. And don't just sit back and accept that he or she is paying, even though that is what is really happening, because that would make it seem like you expect them to pay and that they owe you somehow. So dance and offer to pay, graciously allow the host to pay, and thank them sincerely. So that's our top 8 list on what to do at a Chinese meal to bring honor to your family and.
Okay. I see that being a little bit related to Confucius, but not as much as I thought. Okay, let's. Yeah, definitely not what I thought. Okay, let's try this one. Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Ali. Welcome to 5,000 Years. There's a famous Chinese saying, it is the father's fault for only feeding but not teaching a child. Plato also said, better be unborn than untaught. In today's video, let's take a look at some etiquette tips from Chinese tradition. Back in the Zhou dynasty some 3,000 years ago, the Duke of Zhou, or Zhougong in Chinese, wrote 2 books for his sons and nephew. In the books, he instructed the kids on how to behave properly and also advised them not to indulge in sensual desires, comfort, playing, and hunting. These books are known as the first family traditions ever written and passed down to the next generations. Since then, many Chinese families have kept family traditions for their children. Some of the most famous ones were written by Zhuge Liang during the Three Kingdoms period, Yan Zhitui during the Southern and Northern dynasties, Sima Guang during the Northern Song dynasty, Zhu Xi during the Southern Song dynasty, and KONGZI Emperor during the Qing dynasty. I grew up with many etiquette rules in my family, and I definitely think these rules helped shape me into a better version of myself. So today I'm going to share some of these rules with you. Maybe not all of them will apply to your family, but they might be useful if you ever visit a Chinese household.
Demeanor.
Hey Ali, do you have any handful I can borrow? I don't have handful. Hey Ali, do you have any handful I can borrow? Of course. So pretty.
Of course.
I'm leaving. 阿姨们吃饭了，请坐，请坐。您先。
Oh my goodness.
Sometimes it's the minor details of etiquette that reveal a person's good or bad upbringing. Although each family has different views on the world, some universal values remain the same, such as being honest, being compassionate towards others, and being
Confucius.
considerate and selfless. There are also many other rules that I didn't mention earlier, such as not being picky with food and not wasting any food. What are some of the rules you learned growing up? And what do you think are the most important ones to teach a child? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you learned something useful in today's video. I'll be making more videos about traditional Chinese culture and values, as well as Chinese fashion and history. So don't forget to subscribe
Very
if you want to
cool.
learn more.
She did that well, I have to say. Okay, so like she said at the end, I mean, this all comes from manners, etiquette, morals. Oh, it's all about Confucius. I see. Okay, people. Okay, so we've reviewed some etiquette that basically derives from Confucius. Do you guys all completely follow this etiquette that we just watched? Is this really super common for everybody to do these things? I would never know not to point the tea spout at somebody. I would never know that. No way. That kind of stuff would get me looked at funny if I visited China. There's no doubt about that. So, but okay, I believe that if you're going to, I can't believe we're almost to the 40th edition next week. That's just simply amazing to me. Wow. Completely does not feel like it's been that long, people. No way. Okay, speaking of Confucius, I think that I completely 100% agree with every naturally or should come naturally to people to feel this way, to treat people this way, to be nice about everything that you do. Always respect others, all that moral stuff. I mean, that should be pretty fairly common, I think. I don't know. I know human beings definitely have bad sides. So, I want to learn a little bit more about it. Did we? Hold on a second.
And improving.
Okay, we watched that one already. Oh, this ought to be interesting. Okay, a kid explains Confucius. Let's see what the kids have to say. Yeah. This could be entertaining. It's nice to hear what the younger generation has to say. Let's see what kids say about Confucius.
Not many people could say that they're a meme 2,500 years after they're born, but this guy can. Hello, my name is Mr. Q, and I'm here to tell you about Confucius, the ancient Chinese philosopher. What made him so famous, and why do people still follow him today? His teachings, known as Confucianism, are a philosophy on how to live a moral and ethical life. This is done through rituals, having manners, and having respect for your ancestors. I like to think of him as the Yoda of the ancient world. Historians believe that Confucius was born September 28th, 551 BCE. But like a lot of things from this far back, it's hard to tell what's fact and what's myth. But we do know some things. The times Confucius lived in really needed some order. Even though China fallen, there were wars all the time. Confucius's father was a soldier, and he lost him when he was 30 years old. After shepherd and clerk. Then he wandered the countryside, sharing his philosophy. He even got into politics to try and change how the country was run. He urged leaders to treat their people with respect and to lead by example. This didn't make him popular with warlords or people in the government, though. So, in his 30s, he went back home and started a school. He taught young men ethics, history, psychology, and the arts. Education used to be only for rich people. But Confucius was way ahead of his time, and he wanted it to be available to people of all classes. He thought that the more people who lived well, the better off the world would be. The reason we know so many of Confucius' sayings today is because they were written down in a book called the Analects. It was compiled by his students in the years following his death. Actually, it took him about 30 to 50 years. So there's probably a bunch of mistakes in it. I mean, I find it hard to remember things I learned at school last week, but the overall message survives. We know that Confucius was fond of the golden rule, which is an old idea that became part of a lot of religions. Treat others the way you wish, those famous sayings are. Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. And one of my favorites, never give a sword to a man who can't dance. That's just good advice. The sad thing about Confucius is that by the time he died, he thought that his life's work was a failure and that nobody was listening to him. In fact, his teachings did fall out of favor for a while. But by the time of the Han Dynasty, it became the official philosophy of China and continued to have a big impact on governing until the 20th century. That's because Confucius' teachings were used in the imperial service exams that young men had to take in order to get government jobs. Mm-hmm. Leaders also liked the philosophy because it emphasizes respect for family and social hierarchy, so it could be used
to stop people from questioning their rule. Sounds like they were conveniently forgetting the part where Confucius said that those in power should lead by example. Confucius became more known in the West when his teachings were converted into English by James Lake in 1867. Chinese imperial rule during the Cultural Revolution. But these days, it's seen as a big part of Chinese national identity. It also influenced other East Asian cultures, like Japan, Korea, and Vietnam. As Confucius would say, the journey of 1,000 steps begins with one step. What's your favorite Confucius saying? Look them up and type them in the comments. I can't wait to read them. Like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification button if you want to be the first to see our new episodes. And be sure to join our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for new excitement.
Cool. That gets witty, man. That's good stuff. Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, what more can I really say about Confucius? It's just dude died thinking that nobody was paying attention to him. This is sad. This is tragic. Especially knowing that so many people use his teachings now, and not just in China, all across the globe. I wish he knew how influential he was before he died. Isn't that the way it always works out? Even the best ones get, I don't know, shorted in life. It's not fair. Ooh. I wonder what we're going to do for number 40, people. Number 40 is right around the corner. I think it's going to have to be something special. And we're almost to the holiday season here, too. Woo! Lots of things lined up for Jing's learning. Woo! It's currently about 10:20 where I'm located. And it's cold. What's the weather like in Hong Kong today? Can't look at my phone. I'm using it for Instagram. I would guess 25, maybe 27 degrees, something like that. In Hong Kong, of course. Where I'm at, it's probably 2 out there right now, maybe 3 degrees, I think. I think we'll have a high of maybe 10 today. Not bad. I'm not a big fan of winter, so I am not looking forward to the next 3 or 4 months. That's for sure. But okay, it's the holiday season soon. It's going to be a little different the way we celebrate because of coronavirus, but okay. Nonetheless, holiday season is coming, and I'm looking forward to some of these next episodes of Englishing with James. Although today is a very interesting choice for a subject. We were talking about the most influential people in the world a few weeks back. It might be safe to say that Confucius might have been that most influential person in the history of mankind. I think it might be a safe bet. That's so hard to decide who was the most influential that we've discussed we can only hope. Let's say that. Video about the man. Okay, I think I got one. Let's check it out. I hope it's good.
A mouse. China's Grand Master of Wisdom, Confucius, had little time for superstition. Instead, he taught that it was not the huge mountains on the horizon, but the molehills before your feet that would bring about your downfall. All philosophers and pupils, be greeted. It's Guy again, this time here to talk about one of the world's greatest philosophers and teachers, Confucius. Welcome to its history. Welcome to the world of deep thought. We believe Confucius lived between 551 and 479 BC. He was born in Lu, a province on the east coast of China. The area today is known as Shandong and was part of the German Empire between 1898 and 1914. In China, he is known as KONGZI, meaning Master Kong. While he was still a young whippersnapper, he turned his house into a school, not for money, but out of thirst for knowledge. In principle, anyone was welcome to learn history, poetry, etiquette, and ethics at Confucius's place.
His fame grew as he moved his way through the government's offices, starting as buildings minister before moving on to justice minister and then acting as chancellor of Lu. It was the perfect opportunity for Master Kong to test out the basis of his theory on just rule. Back then, individual Chinese feudal states were often at each other's necks and almost as frequently at war. The Prince of Lu got caught up in luxury living and began to deviate from the foundations of government, much to the frustration of Confucius. So he handed in his resignation, packed his bags, and headed off on a 13-year-long hike. We might call that a sabbatical these days, albeit a bloody long one, even by modern standards. After his long period on the road, the state of Lu wanted him back, where he resided until his death. Confucianism is the name we have come to use to describe the combined teachings of Confucius. But this is a Western concept. In China, they speak of Rujia, which means school of the learned. Confucius himself never wrote down a definitive work. He rather communicated his thoughts to his students. Most of what we know about Confucius comes from these notes, such as Lun Yu, a collection of conversations, statements, and anecdotes that are attributed to Master Kong. Confucius taught not only his own philosophy, but also collected old traditions and customs from a range of cultural circles that he wanted to preserve for posterity. Master Kong understood himself not to be an innovator, but rather a man to deliver and reinterpret the wisdom of old. At the heart of Confucian philosophy is practical direction on life and the self. It isn't a puritanical doctrine that directs its followers towards sacrifice and subservience to a deity. And there's no speculation. Later humanists describe the importance of getting along with other people. It's not for nothing that Confucius declares his golden rule: do unto others as you would have done to yourself. The ideal person, described by Confucius as the noble one, sets an example to others both from an ethical and political point of view, so that others are inspired to emulate him. This person is true to the so-called 5 constants of Confucianism: humanity, rectitude, tradition, knowledge, and scrupulousness. There are further virtues that revolve around these core teachings and that you should demonstrate appropriately. If the normal person found it impossible to align themselves with the heaviness of the universe, they could always just make the best out of their worldliness. Confucius always saw people as a work in progress, who could only become teachers themselves when they were aware of their own feelings. Generate new knowledge while mulling over the old, and you become a teacher to others, he said. Not only did a person hold great worth, but Confucius also assigned them with great responsibility. The teachings of Confucius were multifaceted and even changed the political thought of Chinese rulers. The great teacher conceived of society in terms of the family. The younger brother obeyed the older, as the mother did the father. The emperor was supposed to be the patriarchal master at the head of the family and rule the kingdom from high above his subjects. Like the sun at the center of the solar system, the ruler was to be at the heart of government, whose society in turn revolved around its actions and orders. This patriarchal hierarchy might appear out of place to the modern mind, but the emperor liked the sound of it very much. Confucius was convinced that strict order in life was absolutely necessary. The evidence for a lack of order was all around: warring states, moral decay, and chaos in the ascendancy. Confucius said that man could only exist as a socially organized being. For him, freedom was not suppressed by order. No, order created the space for human ability to act. If man is led by laws and obedience to them is enforced by the threat of punishment, he will try to avoid this punishment, but never be ashamed of his misdemeanors. If, however, he is led by virtue and adherence to decency rules his behavior, he will indeed be ashamed and ultimately turn to the good. In the face of chaotic political situation, the master called the leader of Lu and other functionaries in the government to return to the tried and tested bases of his social order. The government only functions when the prince is the prince, the minister is the minister, the father is the father, and the son is the son. The government was to remain true to the 5 constants, setting an example of virtue and rectitude and staying true to the traditional obligation. The person started with himself. That would precipitate a sort of domino effect that would encompass all of society, even the whole of the universe. To this end, people were to consider not just themselves, but also the entirety of society and the state around them. The rulers were to command not by force or law, but by setting an example to their people. As Confucius said himself, ruling means correcting. If a ruler does not act well, his decrees will be useless, because nobody will listen to them. Confucius advocated first and foremost the welfare of people. The entirety of his teachings can be boiled down to a basic collection of principles governing behavior and moral instructions. Harmony was always the aim, the golden middle, with everything in a state of dynamic equilibrium. Confucius always saw people in the context of the family, society, and the state, which gives his teachings political as well as sociological credence. Confucian theory has found its way into many aspects of life in the Far East, and in South Korea and Indonesia is recognized as an official religion. The great master lived in Bronze Age China, and you can learn more about the birth of the China we know today by watching our episode on that topic. Click here to access the video now. Confucius always urges you to think for yourself, so what do you think? Should we not behave
佢冇用雨傘啊嘛，冇擋住。
My name is Chorus and I'm taking grade piano. BW3807. C.
Thank you.